Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for joining.
Hey Emily, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about text to video
Yeah,
and yeah, text to visual generation. And I'm so excited for this conversation because I feel like a lot of the focus is many times on chat experiences.
mm,
So yeah, I think there's a lot people can learn from, lots of layers to unpack. So yeah, do you want to start with
definitely.
a introduction and a little bit about what you're working on?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Sim. I lead language engineering and content design at Clipchamp. So Clipchamp is a creative Microsoft product. It's in the creative suite. We focus on providing video editing software. We have embraced AI, and we're empowering our users to create videos that are generated from natural language prompts. So yeah, like you said, we have seen a lot of text to text outputs, and now we're kind of evolving into a text to object space, which is really exciting. It is a lot more extra work, and I'm really excited to talk about it with you today. You've been an instrumental part of our work as well by helping us on board with evaluations. That was really awesome. So I'm glad we can hang out like this as well. It's really cool.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was curious, how is your work different from more
Mhm.
traditional text to text experiences?
Yeah, text to object is still something that people are wrapping their heads around. So many AI outputs, even currently, are text to text. So a user types something in a text input, and then the AI replies also using text. So that conversation is between two participants communicating through a shared medium that doesn't change the whole time. They're both using the same method of communication. Whereas a text to object output is a user putting in text. So it's different to the medium in which the interaction began. So you still have conversational experiences. So participants can communicate in the shared medium, like it can talk to the machine, and we call that steering. So like steering towards better output. But the ultimate
Mhm.
output is different from the initial input.
So what additional layers do you have to
Oh,
think about within that? Because I can imagine it's
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So imagine every layer in the world, and that's where
Yes.
no, of course, there's so many. So because it's a layered output, that object is comprised of many different assets, factors, all that kind of stuff. It means there's so many different moving parts. So all of these layers need to be aware of each other. And when I say layers, I'm talking about the ingredients or the contents of a video. So when you watch a video, it's a visual medium. So you're observing it, but you're also hearing it. There's text to speech, but there's also text that pins together all the video. And I'm not just talking about the text that appears on screen. I'm talking about the scripted text that's often set as a voiceover. Behind the scenes, there's often a screenplay or a structure or a plan that the video is following. So there's just all of these different layers. Ultimately, they need to all harmonize so you have like a cohesive result. And I mean, the dream is to produce something that's engaging and emotive. I think
Mhm.
video is so different to text. Text can obviously engage readers, but video can really make an audience feel something, and that's what we're always aiming for.
And what are the biggest challenges with working with LLMs? Because I feel like there's so much that could,
Oh,
so
where do
much
we start?
variation.
No, of
Yeah.
course, challenges or opportunities. No,
Or, yeah.
that there's all the usual considerations. It's like token usage, model upgrade, which model for which task. Like we all share that. But with text to object output, we have an added parameter that's really hard to define and it's really nebulous. It's taste, right? Because it's the hardest thing to work on. Because LLMs fundamentally don't have any taste. Because taste is like a sense, it's an instinct, it's built on this lived experience and memory. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking I could give an LLM every single reference point of like a Sofia Coppola film. I could give it the script, I could give it the film, I could give it every possible piece of information about that film, but I can never give the LLM like the feeling I had when I watched that film or I saw a specific like shot of like Converse in that film, which was like a really profound moment. It really made me feel something. Like in Mary Antoinette, there's this amazing sequence and it's scored really well and it's paced really well. And all of that comes together to elicit a response from the viewer. Um, and so that's a human experience, right? That the LLM can't relate to, can't decode, and nor should it, right? So one of the biggest challenges is translating taste, but also protecting taste and protecting that inherent soul and knowing where the LLM adds value, balancing that with where the human also brings value. So it's a big one to tackle.
Yeah. And how I guess we'll get into that a little bit later, but sure. For right now, I was wondering, with all these extra layers, and because the output can be so varied, and you're also working with human emotions, how do you even begin to define what good looks like for the output?
Yeah, it's a big question. This is obviously how I met you as well, because you're a subject matter expert in this field. You're so good at building frameworks and building really good repeatable processes that people can use. With video, we have the added kind of element of taste and the added layers. So my background is in journalism, so I'm formally trained in terms of like the actual semantic art of writing, right? So I would be someone who would be considered like educated in what good looks like for the writing part of a video, like the script. Right. And that's just one part. So the key to success in the text to object space, I would say, is finding the experts of each layer. So motion, animation, sound effects, color theory, like I could go on this, there's hundreds of them. Find the person who knows that layer and translate their craft into what you gave us, which is these scalable, repeatable evaluation processes. So yeah, tall order, but I think we're getting it done. I think, you know, when you have a fantastic design team who are so broad and varied in their experience, you can really start to like nail these specific layers and actually figure out and ask someone, what do you think good looks like as the expert in that layer? Yeah.
So what types of evaluation criteria do you have to consider for?
Yeah, this is everyone's favorite question. There's just like so many, right? And I mean, we know this, the easiest one, the most lightweight one is like pass fail, or like the non-negotiable like truth of an asset. So there's some instances where like there's rigid rules where a machine can veto immediately. So those colors should not be matched. This doesn't meet accessibility standards. It's just like such a simple yes or no. Once you get scales involved, like Likert scales, that's when you need to really lean on those subject matter experts, because you need the people in the room who can tell you what's the visible, identifiable difference between a 3 out of 5 and a 4 out of 5. Because not only are you looking for SMEs who like know their layer or know motion or know music, they also need to be able to put that knowledge into clear assertions and examples, because that's an added layer of skill in our like new kind of future where we're now teaching and guiding an LLM in a really specific way.
Yeah. So how specific do you have to get for each layer? Is it like, do you start with a framework, or do you specify? Or
such a good question. You can go so granular, but it does depend. So, and you would know this, the evaluation processes should begin with like an overall lay of the land. So get the global baseline for the entire video. So across a few measurements. Once you understand where you're starting, then you can start to isolate underperforming layers or the elements that could do with some improvement. And then you can target those specific layers with granular evaluations that really dig into what is it about this layer that's not harmonizing with the output. And a good way to get more information on this is to engage in annotation. So you've got one subject matter expert who's advising, try and get more of them and get people to assess that specific layer. And then you'll start to identify patterns and understand biases and where the perspectives differ between the user, the subject matter expert, the annotators, and the machine if you're also doing LLM as a judge. So you have all these different inputs, and then it's about zooming out and finding what's consistent and addressing that in the instructions.
Right.
Super easy stuff.
Oh, of course. And then this sounds like it's a lot of human evals. And have you approached evaluating with like doing automated evals at all?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the joy of working at Clipchamp. So we have these people dedicated to creative approaches to these problems. So these subject matter experts, and we can kind of distill their knowledge and write about it, document it. But one of the big game changers for us was aligning that creative process with scientific rigor and automating that rigor. So we have these amazing designers at Clipchamp, but then we also have a really strong growing applied science team. So the designers bring creative concepts and ideas to the team, and then the scientists help us with frameworks to like robustly examine those criteria and assess them and make sure they will hold up to light. And a lot of that is automated because, as you know,
right,
imagine the time to watch all the videos.
Gosh, I can't even,
so absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Do you find what users perceive as good output aligns with the criteria that you've set for the evaluations?
That is such an interesting question. I would actually love to know what you think about this too. For me, the answer is I'm surprised a lot of the time, but users will always surprise you with what they say they value and how they, what they don't say and what they do say. But it's a surprise in the best way because that's such a huge part of what we do. We have to engage with customers to ensure that there's like no disconnect between what you're building and what people actually care about, because as soon as you lose sight of that, you're in that big chasm of nothing. And our customer engagement team bridged that gap a lot. I mean, if I had to think about like some of the insights that users have brought us, it's going to sound extremely sappy, but like I find it really nice. It's really heartening because a lot of my initial work was around writing like system instructions for the script, which we produce as a voiceover on each video. And it was really amazing to me that information workers actually really do want scripts that follow these narratives that we've all been reading for thousands of years as humans. Like they want intro conflict resolution. They want like the hero's journey. So even if you're making what you think is like a video on HR processes, people still really want stories that feel alive to them and like remind them of the importance of language. So I think when I'm looking at what matters to a video, users are always surprising me, but in the best possible way, because they just remind me what's important about like the stories we tell about our lives and each other, which is a more romantic answer, I think, than expected there. But
no, that's great. And I think I found that too. Like people just want that human like collaboration aspect or like the human connection. And it's more about what you're saying, like how people feel. So
exactly, especially with video. Like think about film, think about TV. Like when people think of cultural touchstones, they usually are in a visual medium, you know. But I do want to turn that question back on you. With your user research and evaluation, were people ever pointing out stuff that you hadn't considered or weren't aware that they cared about? Was there anything that kind of surprised you?
No, I think it's validated a lot of what we've been trying to do with conversational interactions and just making sure like the quality itself of the actual response is important, not like how long it takes to generate. I mean, to a certain point, you need to, you know.
Of course. But did you find that was easier as well with like having a broad, diverse group of designers working on it who could bring all different elements of a conversation and kind of build what makes a conversation important together?
Yeah, and I think we're still trying to socialize that with other teams and just make sure that we're focusing on the actual language itself and how the information is presented.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm curious about like how you balance consistency and creativity. So for like text-based experiences, a lot of the times the goal for us is to get like a consistent baseline response. But for text to object generation, do you want that? And do users want that? And or do they want more creativity and variety?
I guess it totally depends, but when I'm working on this stuff, I do think it's, for us at least at a creative product, you need to balance non-determinism with guardrails. So it's like, what things need to be predictable so that the safety mechanisms, and then what things can be more variable. So creativity and like variation can kind of blossom as well. Users do want different stuff. They don't want the same thing every time when they're dealing with like a career. And you'll see that with people who are generating images as well. They don't want the same approach every single time. But enterprise users specifically, information workers, they're actually often creating content with constraints. Like they have brand kit and they have their own tone of voice. That's actually really great because constraints actually add another dose of creativity. Like I think it's a really good test of a product if you can still be creative within a boundary. So if someone brings you a brand kit, can you still make something really beautiful? Can you still craft a really, really good narrative while using the parameters they've given you? So predictability in some things, but that predictability also breeds creativity around it, I think, is kind of how we think about it.
That's super interesting. And I guess also knowing that the users want like the storyline too, and having that structure too helps. So
yeah.
I found that sometimes when I'm prompting a chat experience, a lot of the details or too many details can end up narrowing the focus too much, and it can over index on certain specific sentences or examples. So I wonder if you found the same thing.
Yeah, and it's so nice to talk to someone who very much understands what I'm about to say. So we very lovingly built this system over a long time, and it was brought to life by like a very phenomenal, they're our magic squad. They're called that for a reason. They're amazing. But you do notice these quirks. So like, why is it always defaulting to this style of like opening sentence? It's always the same amount of words, or it doesn't understand. I've given it a creative example, but it doesn't have the context for why that thing is creative. So that was really, really interesting. And you see that a lot in like, popular uptake of AI. People see the M dashes and they see the rules of three, and you see a system defaulting back to something or over indexing on certain like techniques. So it's hard. I think with the advent of, obviously we work on Claude, having that companion to be able to really zoom into analyze itself and analyze its own output and where it's going wrong is also really helpful, because I could test and change one word in the instructions each time and not figuring it out. And now we're just operating at this amazing pace. So yeah, it's been a journey.
That's great.
Yeah.
Are there areas where you found that giving more detail helps, and other areas where like you can kind of just give it minimal instructions and it'll just do the work?
Oh yeah, what a dream. The detail, yes, the detail where we really do need to guide it is in those taste layers. So that's where the design differentiation is coming in. So you've got to be meticulous when you're giving the LLM these parameters of good taste for each of those layers. I personally think that like hyper personalization is going to be a really fundamental part of all of our work. And you see it already, like we have work IQ. The machine is going to be able to access immense amounts of enterprise data. And that's where I think we should be happy to let it do its thing there. I don't want to have to guide it, because it's going to do a way better job than I am of just going through all my emails and Teams and context switching for me. But I do think the taste around that and how it constructs that story definitely needs to be in a lot of detail. So that's on us on the back end. And you would know this as well. How can you ensure that you're guiding and giving an LLM the right instruction at the right level of detail in the right place so it can make the right decision? That's
right. And
where we come in.
Yeah. And how do you account for users giving different levels of details in their prompts?
That comes down to steerability as well. So like I said before, can you have this conversation with the user and collaborate to build something together? I think that is crucial in video, because one-shot generation is awesome, but often you'll have people being like, I need to change this or I need to change that, and remaining open to at least enabling a conversation about it is important. So yeah, that would probably happen in kind of like a steering or a steerability or a chat interface or something like that. They still should have the option to customize it even further. But
yeah, no, I completely agree. I think a lot of times we just like assume what people want and just give it to them. And I think being able to work with them and collaborate is.
And that's actually something else that I would love to hear your take on. Something I've been working on for a really long time is like the planning process of putting this together, and the assumptions that we make at the start of the guiding the LLM and instructing. I found it really, really cool, really interesting to see what people say and what they mean, and the gap in between.
Yes.
And I imagine you would work on this a lot, like trying to just pass or fill in or infer information that's just simply not available to you based on, assumptions, based on patterns. I'd love to hear how you tackle that, because it's definitely such a black hole at times. So how do you kind of go for your inference models, and how do you try and fill the gap, I guess?
So I think the best way to do it is just to ask. And it's like I mean, it sounds like
no, it's Occam's razor. It's
cliche,
the simplest explanation is often the best.
Yeah, but I think oftentimes we just give people the wrong information because we just don't get what we need, or we're not asking them the right questions, and we're not giving them the opportunity to provide or communicate clearly what they want. Totally. So I think it needs to be more of a conversational interaction and multi-turn back and forth, and just making sure you understand what they're saying enough to give them the response that they need,
what they want.
Or the
totally
output. Yeah, exactly.
And we both know just how challenging it can be for people to come to an open text field and write. Like writing is one of the hardest, most vulnerable things you can do, and to approach that text box and be able to smash out a perfect prompt is just not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, and some users can do that, and like we cater to them very well, but I think towards the general population that may not know how to do it and may not know how to get started, we automatically assume because it's conversational that we talk to people all the time. We know how to manage a conversation,
no.
or what to say, and they don't. So
completely different medium. We kind of liken it to early Google search or Bing search, which is where people would type in full sentences into Google, and then over the years they've developed the shorthand and they started to understand what that experience required them to input. We are at the same inflection point. People don't know how to prompt. They're not going to know how to prompt for a while. How do we have like empathetic design that like supports them as they learn? I think that is going to be really important, like as a design task.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge user education piece opportunity.
Yeah, massive. Yeah.
So I find a lot of the times the models don't really interpret certain words or concepts the same way humans do.
Yeah.
So, for example, like words such as short or concise, it'll just kind of ignore what I'm saying. So I was wondering if you've seen that too and how you approach that.
Absolutely. And you've brought up probably my favorite example to talk about, which is temporal time. Like, of course, machines don't experience time in the same way we do. But you're so right. I also would be writing, keep this short, keep this brief, and I would just not be realizing it had no lived context for what that means. So any vagueness around time or describing time just never worked. And that is such an interesting piece for video, because a video is governed by time. It's like one of the axes. So if you can't communicate the length of a video, it's going to be really hard to make the video. Anyway, we found that we had to just really command in like a black and white way that was really explicit and really like tied to numbers. Never go longer than 10 seconds, never go longer than 3 minutes. Just like really, really make it clear, like this is the number, this is the limit. Approach the limit, don't go over the limit. Just writing in commands, because as soon as there was, and you would know this, as soon as there is vagueness, as soon as there is gray or subtlety, that machine wants to fill that uncomfortable space with what it thinks, and we got to keep guiding it back to what we think as the experts, hopefully. So time is a great one. Do you
find impacts other areas of the experience as well? Like if you give it an instruction and do you find that it also alters like something else in the experience that you didn't expect?
Always. And that's the joy of non-determinism. Like that's where the creativity can happen, but it's also where stuff, and just from a taste perspective, that's also where stuff can look bad, and you're just kind of like, okay, so it has no context for what pairing of colors or whatever. It has no context for like this doesn't work with this. Also has no context for watching a video, so it can't consume its own output, and so that's hard as well. But now, like I said before, we're so lucky to have these layers, people working directly granularly with a layer, and like a designer saying, okay, these colors are good, these colors are bad, do not use. Like having those rigid things, it makes the machine so much more comfortable because it's just operates so well within a boundary. So laying those boundaries down so it doesn't like throw up the most insane combinations you've ever seen. It was a relief.
Have you found that it ever like deviates from those boundaries, or do you find it just generally sticks to them?
It used to for sure. And now as we move into a more agentic future, because the moving parts, the layers are all starting to communicate with each other and operate in context of each other. When it's operating in isolation from each other, so, you know, the animation isn't talking to the music, so they don't match, there'd be a conflicting piece of guidance that would break them both. And then you'd have to go in and be like, all right, what have we done here? So this is off and now this is off as a result. Like, they're just not, there's no harmonization. There's no conversation between them. But yeah, then that becomes like an organizational structural thing. So we're organized now into like these really effective squads with really good lines of communication. So if one person is working on this layer, that will feed into pacing, timing, music. Everyone else is able to like, be open to it. But yeah, you can't be changing one thing in isolation. It'll just
Oh my gosh,
it's tricky. It's a communication piece.
It's yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what I'm hearing is that a lot of this has to be designed and has to be thought through, and it has to be carefully crafted so that you're giving users the opportunity to get the best output possible.
Correct. The word we use is like intentional. Every single decision that we make or that we want that machine to make has to be done with like care and intention, because when you watch videos, you can tell it's such an enigmatic, such an emotive medium that you can tell when it's been made not right. And that comes to taste, which, you know, some of it is innate. Some people are born with impeccable like taste. It is learned, it is taught, but a lot of people can watch the same video and know if it's good or not. So it's got to be designed with intention for sure.
It's
a big thing.
Do you have any advice for people that are working on text to object experiences?
Yeah, I'm hoping to see a lot more. I think there's going to be hopefully a wider industry for sure. Going back to the taste thing, I think develop your taste at every opportunity and really hone into what makes you unique. So if you're a writer, you should be reading, and if you're a visual artist, excuse me, you should be exposed as much as possible to human created assets. So engage in like the world around you, but also on like a personal level and a craft level, you should really kind of guard and protect your creative spirit. So LLM outputs definitely have their place in the world as creative outputs, but so do you. And you need to make sure that you are aware of your own value and you keep exercising your own artistic muscles away from work as well, because being open and being kind of in the world will just keep helping you understand what good looks like, which is what we all want to know. That's what we want to know. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. This has been such a great conversation. Is there anything else you want to cover that we didn't talk about?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I also want to say, I said it at the top, thank you so much for how much you've helped Clipchamp in our evaluation journey. It's been massive. You've really helped so many people scale and like learn about the importance of assessing. I also just want to call attention to there's so many young women at Microsoft specifically working in this space, so many like young tastemakers, so many like people who are transforming their jobs and transforming their approach to work and their lives. And I think none of my education wouldn't have happened without a really great community. And I think your podcast is like facilitating this kind of community. So it's a really cool thing to be a part of. And thank you for doing it. A lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. So
yeah. Thank you so much.